Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk about crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, how to get your project funded, how to bring a new product or an idea into the world, and really cash in on your passion, to make your passion profitable. That's what we talk about on this channel. And today I want to get into actually some of the habits when it comes to what makes a successful Kickstarter creator, and not just a one-time creator, but also one who's doing multiple campaigns and is very successful in this niche. I had the privilege of coaching hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. I've had at least 400, I think, people on my podcast by now, and I've had to just literally interface with, I think, thousands at this point, I'd say, creators, more than 10,000 people on my forum, kickstarterforum.org, we have 1,000 people in my newsletter, etc. So I want to bring all that experience to just share it with you, because I've kind of seen a lot of commonalities that I want to bring to light in this video. Okay, so let's get into this. Basically, I've had the privilege, like I said, of kind of getting a cross-section of a lot of different types of creators out there when it comes to crowdfunding. And one of the differences I say between what I do and what other people do is that I work with a lot of different types of categories. I've been doing this obviously since 2012 when I started CrowdCrux, my blog on the internet, and I started putting out content, and a lot of this was based around statistical findings, and also when it comes to the Jobs Act, I was initially getting started there and kind of talked more about Kickstarter and also how the category is different. I was really the first person to do that, as well as document the entire launch formula behind a Kickstarter campaign. I put all those findings as well into my course, Smash Your Kickstarter Goal, which walks you step by step through launching an effective campaign in the easiest way possible. So that being said, I've seen a lot of what works, I've seen a lot of what doesn't. I've also noticed a lot of commonalities and traits when it comes to people that are successful in this particular niche. So think about that. You're getting calls every single day, you're interfacing with people all the time, and you just start to notice certain commonalities. So let's talk a little bit about those. So the first thing that I want to talk about is actually kind of more like a myth. And I think the biggest myth is that when someone comes to me like, Sal, I don't live in Silicon Valley, I don't live in New York the way that you used to, now I live in Miami. Can I really do a crowdfunding campaign? Is this thing possible? And when I first started, hear that, I was kind of like dumbfounded, because at that point in time, I was talking to so many people who were running campaigns literally around the world. I was talking with my friend, and the guy was literally doing a campaign in Italy, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever at that point in time. I'd never heard of doing a campaign outside the United States at that time, and it was so cool. Then I started hearing from people in the UK and people in Canada and people in Australia. If I'm mentioning your country, give me a thumbs up on this video, right? And I started to hear also from people doing campaigns in China and South Korea, and hearing about other people who are doing campaigns around the globe. It was so interesting and so enthusiastic to be able to be a part of that community. And I was seeing this firsthand, and I realized that I couldn't really share that with other people, which is one of the reasons why I started the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast, is to share with you guys those kinds of stories, so you can see and you can hear firsthand the different creators that I'm also talking with and how they're literally spread around the globe and also around the United States. A lot of the times I'll be doing a phone call, right? A coaching call with a student, and he's like, I'm just from a very small town, right? I love your YouTube videos, Al. And I'm like, dude, that's cool. You don't have to be in a major metropolitan area to do a successful campaign. You don't have to be in Silicon Valley or New York City to do a successful campaign, right? It's not about where you are. And that's because the way that crowdfunding has been democratized, the way the internet has democratized who can actually get attention, who can bring new products to light, and who can get funding. So you can run a crowdfunding campaign successfully no matter where you are on the globe. And that's because so much of the work as well is online. And also all your backers, all the people that are checking this out, they are online. They are discovering you online if you follow the teachings that I'm talking about in my different programs. So this is something you can do from anywhere. And I know that if you just kind of are thinking about this, it maybe kind of makes you seem limited if you only have access to people in your area, but you gotta think bigger, my friend. You gotta think bigger. There's a whole wide world of backers, customers, people who can actually discover your creative work. The world is a big place, man. And even if you only got a sliver of that attention or eyeballs, only a sliver of that audience, it would be huge. It would be humongous. We undersell ourselves so much when it comes to creating new things, being entrepreneurs, being business owners, whatever you want to call it, being creative types. We undersell ourselves so much. The world is big. You can go out there and you can stake your claim. Does not matter where you are. The second thing is, Sal, I am too old. Sal, I'm too young, right? Can I do this, right? So the biggest other myth that I see when it comes to this is that you need to be a certain age age, or that there's a certain age demo, which is like the sweet spot when it comes to crowdfunding or Kickstarter. And this honestly is just not true. A great example of this is I was actually on the phone with a family member, and I was like, you will not believe the day that I had today. I literally was on a coaching call with an individual who was 20 years old. And then like right after that, because the calls I usually do right after each other, right after that, I was on a call with a guy who was around 80 years old. So obviously a lot of experience there, and there's such an interesting dichotomy in that literally someone who is 20, and I think the youngest student I've ever had is probably around 16 years old. I've had people DM me on Instagram who are a little bit younger than that. You can search me Salvador Briggman, right? They've DM'd me if they're a little bit younger, but they need to have their parents' permission. They need to be working with their parent, obviously, if we're going to work with them in any kind of way in that sense. But also, that's why I also put up free content, is just to help people who are kind of on the come up as well. So it doesn't matter if you're 18, 20, 30, 35, 40, 45, or older, you have more experience. Doesn't matter. You can run a successful crowdfunding campaign. Now, that being said, the way you do it might be a little bit different. Okay, so for example, if you're on the older side, or you have more experience, or you have that, those rings on the tree, whatever you want to call it, right? You might not be the one doing the execution necessarily of the campaign. You might be bringing more of the resources and then helping or enabling someone else to run this campaign on your behalf. That being said, I've also had people who are on the older side who want to do the campaign themselves and want to learn and want me to coach them through the process, right? Or take one of my programs and follow the step-by-step blueprints, which I have to help you run a successful campaign. So it does not matter what age you are, and maybe being younger might make you a little bit more aware of some of the social media platforms. However, even younger individuals, just because they're aware as a consumer, doesn't mean they've been using social media actually as a producer to create content, to get attention. Once they start to do that, they realize actually how tricky it sometimes is, right? So it does not matter what age you are, anyone out there can run a crowdfunding campaign, particularly on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. The next things would usually be experience, education level, and knowledge, okay? So I'm gonna talk about those, and I'm gonna talk about some of the habits and some of the things that I see of successful creators and successful business owners in this niche. So first of all, experience. A lot of people will come to me and they're like, Sal, I've never created a product before. Good for you, because most people who have launched crowdfunding campaigns, Kickstarter campaigns, Indiegogo campaigns, have not actually created products before. This is kind of like they're cutting their teeth on learning how to do product creation and product development. Now, in some ways, that can create a little bit of a bad reputation in the industry, because we have people who end up backing projects and that creator wasn't very well prepared, and they have delays when it comes to fulfillment and shipping, and even some delays with the product itself, right? So there are drawbacks, I would say, to having a lot of amateurs or less experienced people in the industry. However, it's still going super strong. It's still a very thriving crowdfunding community. So even if you don't have experience with ever creating a product before, I would say, honestly, this is the perfect place for you to cut your teeth on this, and also do it in a way where you don't have to ship the product tomorrow. Get the funding in order to help you when it comes to actually creating mass quantities of that product, attracting the community around you, also a community that's more understanding than the Amazon community, or people like buying on your Shopify store who want it tomorrow and are really angry if they don't get it. So there are a lot of benefits, I'd say, in that way. So if you've never created a product before, and again, it doesn't have to just be a physical product, it could also be like a board game, that could also be something when it comes to a card game, it could be a book that you've written, or even just creating an indie film. I'd say, again, the majority of people who approach me, are a good vast number, have never created a product before, or the people who have, and they're like, the second time around, I really want to invest in this campaign, so I want to do it right. I've listened to your videos, I did it not so great the first time, or I learned from that experience, and I want to really hit it out of the park the next time. So we have a big spectrum when it comes to that. Just because you don't have the experience in product creation or crowdfunding does not mean you will be successful. And that's one of my favorite pieces about the industry, is just educating and helping beginners see their first success, so they can have the next one, the next one, the next one. And like a lot of the actually recent shows, they can come back on the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. I can interview them, and we can deliver some of those advice and tips to you out there in the audience who are just now coming up on with that experience. So when it comes to other kinds of experience, business experience, again, I would say the vast majority of people do not yet have business experience. By business experience, I'm more so referring to how do you structure projects, how do you set up companies, how do you do trademarks, patents, how do you do things when it comes to marketing, how do you manage people, how do you manage teammates, how do you create standard operating procedures, business workflows, all that kind of stuff that goes into running a business, even things when it comes to like syncing up with your fulfillment provider, syncing up with your manufacturer, how do you coordinate all these different pieces of the puzzle without going insane and blowing your mind, right? These are things that you learn as a business owner, wearing many different hats and doing it in a way that doesn't run your life off the rails, though sometimes it might, right? So it's an experience. It's a really fun journey to become a business owner. It's also so rewarding to have that level of freedom in your life, to be able to make what you want, to be able to set the timetable. And it's one of the hallmarks of everyone that's come on the show has said it is just so freaking rewarding. So you don't need experience when it comes to that. I would say, if anything, the biggest commonality when it comes to attributes is someone who really does care, and they are willing to have attention to detail, or they're willing to hire someone to get some help in order to have attention to detail. Because if you're running a campaign and it's interfacing with customers, at a certain point in time, you need some degree of attention to detail when it comes to running that campaign. As for industries, right, this is one of the biggest interesting things that I've been studying. So I run kickstarterforum.org, right? It has more than 10,000 members. We have crowdfundingforum.com, which kind of now, honestly, we haven't been doing too much with that forum, but it's pretty big. A bunch of different Facebook groups, a bunch of different LinkedIn groups, et cetera. Like, I have a whole community when it comes to this niche. I think we have over 6,000 people, I think, in my Facebook group or whatever. But what bases say, like, I've gotten a lot of kind of views of who actually runs these types of projects. And I think that for me, one of the interesting things that I've noticed is just the types of professions that tend to be gravitated really well to crowdfunding campaigns. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't, have every answer when it comes to this, but I do have some insights. So these are my insights. So first of all, I see a lot of people who are in the construction business, who are in the manual labor business, who are in real estate. I see people who have a 9-to-5 office job that are doing crowdfunding campaigns. And it's really interesting to see how a lot of people are so passionate about this that they're usually in some ways moonlighting, or they're doing this kind of after work, or they're doing this, on weekends, et cetera, when they get a chance to squeeze this in to actually run their campaign. Every once in a while, we'll get students and we'll get clients who are running a full-fledged business, and they're kind of doing this as another rung on the ladder, kind of like another kind of side stream, a side hustle when it comes to their business, and actually have run very successful campaigns when it comes to that. But I would say that of the individuals, right, not the companies that I've worked with, the individuals tend to be very passionate about the problem, number one, that the product is solving, or that whatever they're trying to do. Number two, they're really passionate about bringing a solution that is different, or that's kind of a next generation leap forward than other ones that are out there. Number three, they are willing to get into the weeds a little bit. Doesn't mean they want to do everything, but they're willing to at least supervise. I call this being on the job site, right? And this kind of goes back to my analogy. Is I've had a lot of people who have been in the construction industry that end up launching new crowdfunding campaigns. And I think it's because, like, they're around their, different houses and developments all day. They probably just see that a house or whatever it is, a condo, is just made up of a bunch of little different products. They probably have different ideas when it comes to that. I'm not exactly sure, but we see a lot of people. We have, people who are doing truck driving, people who are doing, they already have a different business of some sort. They're launching their campaign. We have people, like I said, who have another source of income, and then they're doing this on the side and growing that into their full-time income, or just deciding to create a side business if they want to do it. And maybe it's more of a passion project. Aside from being passionate about the problem, being passionate about the solution, the other commonalities I see in the way of habits is that, number one, they want to do something that goes beyond just raising funds. Now, I have worked with people who are just like, I just want to raise funds. That's all I care about, right? But I would say the vast majority of people who have been successful typically are interested in doing something more than that. They're interested in maybe impacting the world. They're interested in sustainability, environmentalism. They're interested in something, in some kind of a byproduct that results from doing this project well, maybe moving an initiative forward, maybe impacting a cause in some way. And this actually goes very strongly with the ethos of Kickstarter. If you actually look and you read into Kickstarter, the actual company, they're a public benefit corporation. So they actually have, duty to society beyond just making a profit for themselves. And that's one of their big core tenets, why they actually highlight a lot of campaigns that fall into that light. So we do see a lot of people who launch successful campaigns who aren't just doing it because they want to be successful, because they also want to impact the world. They want to have a certain type of brand, or certain type of mission, or certain type of angle, and they have a vision and a dream, and they're using the campaign for that. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillment is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillment today. Link in the description. We also see a lot of creative types who are doing crowdfunding campaigns. I think this is a natural synergy when it comes to Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And the reason is that when you are a creative type, when you're someone who can come up with new ideas, when you're someone who can come up with things they've never been thought of before. I'm not just even talking about the light bulb, right? Maybe you come up with a new lamp that's just different than other people, the way that people have done it before. If you either have a new take on an existing problem and solution, or you've come up with a whole new solution that's different from anything else, there's a leap forward, that tends to be a very good person when it comes to Kickstarter. And that's because they are literally a creative genius. I do think that even creating a derivation on an existing product is creativity, and typically the way as well that they want to make their brand stand out, everything from the way that people perceive it to what they care about, to the fonts, the materials of the product, etc., the way it's presented, that's a creative individual. So if you are a creative individual, that tends to be a pretty good mesh when it comes to Kickstarter and crowdfunding. And the reason is that creative works typically are original. When something is original, stands out. Very easy to say, right? When it's original, something just literally stands out. And it almost is like wildfire in that when people see something for the first time, they get so excited, they want to share with their friends, they want to spread it all over, and they want to be the first to own it. When you have a product that has like a Kickstarter effect, or if you want to call it almost like that Kickstarter-esque quality, or the kind of X factor, which we were talking about on a recent podcast episode, you stand head and shoulders above many other creators out there because you have intrigue, you have mystique, you have something that people are excited about. It's the first time they've seen this, right? So when you are a creative type, you have more likely a chance to come up with an idea like that or to incorporate an idea like that into your existing campaign. And I'm also obviously a creative type, so if you do want ever help with that, you can always book a one-on-one coaching call with me and we can talk about that. But most products I've ever come across, there is some kind of an angle when it comes to it that makes it original, interesting, creative in some way, and even if that's just the mission behind that product. So I'm just gonna go through a couple of quick more ones when it comes to habits and when it comes to mindsets. First of all, habits. The person who is a successful Kickstarter creator typically is someone who is very aggressive, but at the same time is willing to take their time. It's kind of like a duality, right? They wanna get this thing done. What's the biggest difference between Kickstarter and crowdfunding and other types of businesses out there is that most people out there are just kind of dreamers, just kind of thinking, they have ideas, they think that would be so cool one day, they have those shower thoughts, right? Or coffee ideas they have with their friends, but then they never take freaking action, right? The biggest difference is that Kickstarter creators take action. You guys are making prototypes, you're sketching out things on napkins, you're getting this idea out there, you're trying to maybe even get a manufacturer on the phone, you're trying to build your first prototype, whether that's working, get some photos, share it, right? You wanna freaking take action. That is the biggest trait of someone who is going to be successful with a Kickstarter campaign. Number two, you are willing to embrace uncertainty. What do I mean by that? Uncertainty is when you are not sure of what's going to happen next, okay? You're not sure what's around that next bend. You're not sure what's gonna happen if you open this doorway, but you think that, you know what? This is something that other people have done. I've seen other people do it successfully, and I am willing to take a chance. Kickstarter creators are willing to take a chance, they're willing to embrace uncertainty, and they're willing to launch something that the world has never seen before. Number three, when it comes to this, they are also willing to work with their crowd. So this is the biggest difference for me and like drop shipping or other kinds of business models out there is that Kickstarter creators tend to be willing to work with their audience. They want to co-create, I call it, right? They want to create with their audience. They want to just spam and promote and get people to buy and just not have any kind of interface. There's usually some kind of an interaction between the community itself and the Kickstarter creator, and I call that co-creation. Even if it's just in the early days, right, when they're just beginning to talk about this product and share about it, right, and people are gonna begin to see that and get to know it, and they get really excited about it, it creates a different angle than if they were just trying to promote something. They're trying to involve other people in their actual mission, trying to involve other people in the actual project. And by doing that, they kind of bypass this, I guess, filter or this skepticism that we all have when it comes to buying products, is that we realize that we are part of a community that we're actually creating with that individual and we're on their side. We're not against them, if that makes sense. Last thing I will say is that creators that I have come across that are successful, if I had to pick one trait that stands out above everything, we mentioned a lot on this video. I really tried to cram in a lot of different content when it comes to this video, a lot of different ideas of types of people and traits and habits and all these different things. One thing that I would say that dwarfs or that makes everything seem like nothing. Anyone who is successful on Kickstarter will tell you this. And again, you can listen to them. You can hear them. You can hear them on my show. You can read them in my books, right? You can follow the exact same step-by-step process that goes into these successful launches when it comes to my course, etc. all of these creators have one thing in common, and that is they are freaking persistent, man. They are persistent. Now, I don't think that until you launch your first product, you know what persistence is. Right? You can say you know what it is, but honestly, after you've gone through this process, you have a different definition for what persistence is. And to me, persistence just means willing to move forward, willing to continue to be at it, willing to go through iteration from iteration, willing to keep at it because you have this love, this desire, this passion to get something out there to the world, willing to deal with failure in some cases. It'll be a failure of your first campaign, being successful with your second campaign, or maybe even you are successful publicly, right, when it comes to raising $300,000, but then you have delays with shipping and dealing with those different delays. Persistence is the #1 trait that I see of people who are successful in this niche when it comes to Kickstarter creators, when it comes to people that are coming out with new products, and when it comes to crowdfunding. You gotta be persistent, man. And also, I don't fault anyone for getting distracted and for maybe going down a rabbit hole or wormhole and trying something out and trying this and trying that. As long as you come back to it and you continue to persist, you continue to work at it and believe in your vision and be flexible about maybe how that comes about, but be willing to continue at it. That, my friends, will lead you into the promised land. That is what I talk about when I say opening that doorway. On the other side of that doorway, man, like life is good. You got that freedom. You're bringing new products into the world. You're impacting lives. You're making really good profit, right? You're building a whole brand. Your life is moving in a direction that you want to. It's all on the other side of that doorway. And the key to that doorway is persistence. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to learn more about coaching, you can link that up down below. Also, I have a program out there, Smash Your Kickstarter Goal, which walks you step by step through how to launch one of these campaigns and really blow this thing up. Everything that you need to know going into a crowdfunding campaign. And I think I've had people go through that program and are raising $300,000, and people go through that program and are raising $600,000, over 100K, etc. I've had also people do smaller raises. If you're trying to do like a 25K raise, I have a lot of great testimonials when it comes to that. 50K raises. This is not about what you necessarily like the financial components when it comes to doing a project. This is about the process in order to get results. It's about the unique way in which you can actually get people to back your project, even if they've never heard of you before, even if you've never done anything online before. This process works, and that's really why I talk about that. Why I try to share this with the world is that I think that is something that more people need to discover, that more people need to follow, and that if you follow a step-by-step process, it is designed to get you results. So you can check out that system down below if you are interested. My name is Salvador Briggman. Give me a thumbs up on this video if you liked it. Come subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you next time.